Okay. All right. Not sure what changed, but okay. You hear me now. Okay, so we've been studying the Book of Kings, and although this might not be the most exciting chapter, like stories of the Book of Shmuel, but in a certain sense, it is about the Beis Hamikdash. We are learning about the construction of the Beis Hamikdash, and so we will continue going through it. Maybe just a little faster. Maybe we'll speed up a little bit. So we are in chapter 6, and we were talking about the doorway. And so we're in chapter 6. I'll tell you what verse. Verse 31. Okay, we got to mute everyone because I hear this noise. Oh boy. Okay. Hopefully now should be a little better, the sound. Okay, so we're in verse 31. For the entrance of the inner sanctum, he made doors of olive wood. So the doors that we actually studied this verse on last week. The door frame was 5-sided. It was made almost like a rectangle and then a triangle on top, and so there were 2 doors, and the tops of the door was diagonal, was a diagonal on each side, and so it ended up being the bottom was one side, the 2 sides was the other, was 3 altogether, and then on the top was it was pitched, so it was 2 side, it was two side altogether, 5-sided, and 2 doors Rabbi, of olive wood. Yeah,
it was a pentagon.
Yeah, like a pentagon, right? But then it says the 2 doors of olive wood, upon which he engraved designs of cherubim, palm trees, blossoming flowers, and he overlaid them with gold. He pressed the gold over the cherubim and the palm trees. And what that means is that he wanted the gold to show those designs. And so he had to press it over it in order for the design to protrude and be visible. It's questionable if these doors are 2 new doors or these are the same 2 doors, but in the previous verse, so different ways of understanding it, because we know by the 3rd Beis Hamikdash there is a double doors. In other words, there's 2 doors and then another 2 doors, and the question is if this refers to that, as if this means that as well. Altogether 4 doors. Anyway, verse 33, he also made doorposts of olive wood for the entrance of the sanctuary, which were 4-sided. So we've got the in verse 31 was the Pesach Hadvir, which was like the inner sanctum, which is referring to the Holy of Holies. And then we have the Pesach HaHeichal, which was like the holies. That was he made doorposts over there also with olive wood, and which were 4-sided, and 2 doors were verse 34, and 2 doors of cypress wood with 2 rounded hinges for the one door and 2 rounded hinges for the second door. So this, he made the interesting type of hinges where had like some type of a pole going up as a hinge and a pole going down, and so it was inserted into the hole on top and on the bottom by the threshold. So ultimately, it was able to swing. He then engraved verse 35 is he then engraved on the doors designs of the kruvim and the palms and the blossoming flowers, and he overlaid them with gold, which was flattened over the engraved designs, which is basically similar to the same as he did for the other doors that we also covered with gold. And he pressed the gold on top of them. And then verse 36, he then built a wall around the inner courtyard and 3 rows of hewn stone and a row of cedar beams. And the meaning of that is that he made like a pattern, and he had these rows of stone and then cedar beam, then rows of stone, then cedar beam, and that's how it that was his design. That was the design around the inner courtyard. I don't know if that's common to do. I was thinking how the stone might be much heavier than the cedar. I don't know, but I guess obviously it worked. I don't know how it looks, stone with wood, stone and wood, but that's I guess somehow there must have been some type of a beauty. Okay, and then verse 37.
Is it for the ceilings or for the walls?
I understood it to be the walls. It's a wall around the inner courtyard.
Yeah.
They need small bricks, Rabbi. Small bricks.
There were no
Stone
bricks
is small
then.
bricks.
Okay. In any event, my point was I was thinking of how it matched the stone with the wood, with the cedar wood, but maybe that's something done. I'm not familiar.
Depends how big the beams were. They might have been the size of a stone. The width and
right. Okay. So you're saying it would match at least if it's the same size.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, just interesting to picture. Verse 37 is in Solomon's 4th year. The foundation of the temple of Hashem was laid in the month of Ziv. Ziv is the month of Iyar. And if you remember in verse 1, we had started out with that as well. The month of Ziv was in the beginning of this chapter. And it was on the 480th year to the children's exodus from Egypt, on the 4th year of Shlomo HaMelech's reign, in the month of Ziv. So Ziv means shine, and it refers to the blossoming of the trees. That means that they blossom, and he chose to begin the work during the month of Iyar, and the rainy season is over, and everything that needed to dry, like the cement that they're going to need to dry, would dry quickly. So he started it in the month of Iyar. Now at the end of the chapter, it's sort of like just going over it, summarizing it, like, and saying that in the 4th year, the foundation was laid in the month of Ziv, the month of Iyar, and in the 11th year, in the month of Bul, which is the 8th month, the temple was completed according to all its particulars and all its specifications. He built it over 7 years. So, which month is the month of Bul? So, the month of Bul could be a term,
April?
like a shortened term for Mabul. Mabul, which means the flood. That could, so it refers to Cheshvan, the 8th month, because if you calculate from Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, of Elul, Tishrei, Cheshvan. So it's the 8th month from Nisan. So it's the month of month of Bull refers to the month
I
of
think in the
Cheshvan.
in the Mazalot, Bull is Nisan, isn't it? April Nisan is
the
Bull.
constellations. I'm not sure the Hebrew term. Is that what it's called in Hebrew? Bull? Oh, the bull.
No.
You're saying the English word bull.
In the English, yeah, Bull.
Well, here we're talking about the Hebrew word bull. But another reason why it's called bull, it's there's vegetation in the field that begins to wither at that time, which the word for wither in Hebrew is novoil tiboil, right? Yisrael said that term novel. If we told Moshe, if you don't start relaxing a little, you're gonna surely wither. From the word novoil tiboil, the same word bull, bala. Bala is to get worn out. So Jethro had told Moshe to you're working too hard. You gotta delegate. That was his claim. You have to delegate. So this is the same word as bull. So that would be implying like the vegetation in the field is starting to wither, and the rainy season is beginning. So that's the month of Cheshvan again, and also is the month that the Mabul, the flood started in Noach's time when the flood came. It came in the month of Cheshvan, the 17th day of the month of Cheshvan. That's the month that we're in now, is Cheshvan. So this is another word for this month. If you want a trick question, what's another name for this month? It's called the month of Bull, right here in Malachim. Now, what's interesting is that we don't use the term of the common term for months, but the thing is, all the names of the months is really not. It's not Hebrew. The names of the month, it says that we took it from the it's Aramaic. We took it from the other terms, other languages, or I should say from Aramaic, and not it's not actually Hebrew. Yes.
Didn't we just study in the
Just 1 second. I
Gemara?
think Yehuda was saying something. Yehuda, were you saying something?
Yeah, I thought it was Babylonian, Bavel.
Bavel. Yeah. Oh, I said Aramaic. Well, Bavel, they spoke Aramaic.
Oh, okay.
We took it from Bavel, right? We took it from Babylon.
I wanted to say,
Yes. What did you want to say, Ben?
We learned in the Gemara that the 17th of Cheshvan is one of the days for raining. So the Mabul came on time.
Now that's an interesting thing, right? The Yaira is the 17th, right?
Came on the 7th, 17th, or 21, or 23, whatever.
Yeah, very
17
good. 17
was one of them.
Yeah, in fact, all the three opinions all held of the 17th. All three opinions.
Right.
Good catch. You know what? I didn't think about that. That's a good thinking. Okay, so we've now concluded chapter 6, and what we basically just said was that Shlomo HaMelech took 7 years to build the Beis Hamikdash, and the next chapter tells us about at least the beginning 12 verses tell us about Shlomo HaMelech's palace that he built, which consisted of a few different structures, and it took him 13 years to build his palace. And the commentaries explain that this was the emphasis was that Shlomo HaMelech concentrated better on the Beis Hamikdash than on his own palace, because it's for Hashem, and he did the right thing. In other words, he tried to do it with alacrity, with zrizus, and he did it. He focused on it and made sure to get it done, and didn't waste any time. When it came to his own palace, I'll push it off a little. But with the Beis Hamikdash, Hashem's palace, that he made sure not to push it off, but he was seriously involved and completely involved. And it's mentioning a praise for Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon. Okay, so let's continue with chapter 7. His own palace Shlomo built over 13 years, and he finished his entire palace. He built the house of the forest of Lebanon, 100 cubits its length, 50 cubits its width, and 30 cubits its height, over 4 rows of cedar pillars with cedar beams over the pillars. So he, I don't know if anyone here is in construction, but this is a continuation, another chapter, a little about a lot about construction, and he called one of the structures the house of the forest of Lebanon, which, according to one opinion, at least the way Rashi learns it, this was like his summer place to cool off. And that's at least that's also the target. The Rashi brings the Targum, so that it was a royal summer house, vacation house, like a lot of cross ventilation, many doors and windows, and it was located in the shade of a forest called Lebanon. Doesn't mean Lebanon, but it was near the Beis Hamikdash. You know, sometimes the Beis Hamikdash is called Lebanon. So again, the reason for that is because it was close to the forest. So another point here is that this had so many. It had many pillars of cedar wood that they called it the Forest of Lebanon, because the cedars were from because it had so many of these trees which were used as pillars, so it looked like a forest. Yes, yes, Ben.
I wanted to say most of the wood came from Lebanon. Maybe that's why.
But even when we say it came from Lebanon, I'm not sure if it means exactly what we're calling Lebanon. The truth is, I should look on a map. But I think the term
they mentioned somewhere the town which was in Lebanon, and Sidon. I think it came from Sidon, wasn't it?
Tyre. Is Tyre in Lebanon?
Tyre?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tyre,
I think.
Yes.
Or Sidon. It is?
Yeah, it's in Lebanon.
Interesting.
No, he sent 10,000 workers or 30,000 workers to Lebanon every month to cut those trees and bring them in.
Interesting. Okay, good. So in any event, he's building this. One of the structures was the house of the forest of Lebanon, and it has these measurements, and he built it with these 4 rows of cedar pillars with cedar beams over the pillars.
Rabbi?
And yes.
Many cities in the U.S. have hospitals that are called Cedars of Lebanon Hospital.
Oh, interesting. That's very interesting. So do you think it has something to do with the fact that this was like a beautiful building, or that it was like a vacation, like it should be, like they're trying to make it sound like it's something nice instead of a negative?
Maybe they're using
hospital?
cedar.
Yeah, they're not using cedar; they're using cement. But yeah, that could,
right.
Could very well
Maybe
be. Yeah,
Rabbi.
Yes, good thinking. Okay, thank you, David. I would not have. Although we used to have a cedar hospital here in Miami, the Cedars. It was bought out by University of Miami. I wonder if that was
in California, in Los Angeles area, there was a cedar.
It was also Cedars of Lebanon in Miami. That was Cedars of Lebanon.
It used to be called really Cedars of Lebanon. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
There's also a group called Paul Cedars. It's
Okay.
an organization, and they do good work.
Okay, sounds good. So anyway,
Cedars of Lebanon.
so we have cedar beams over the pillars, which means horizontally from pillar to pillar all along the roof, and something. And this is this is how this structure was built, and now the question was, where was the floor of this structure? So one opinion says that the floor was like elevated, and it was above the floor was above the pillars, and that was the flooring. And and the rooms were of course on top of that. Now so the pillars were like lifting up the structure a very substantial amount, and it was raised above the ground. And the reason for that, at least the understanding would be, seemingly because maybe there's more wind, or it makes it more, or it's just more pleasant to be higher elevated. Now, not everyone agrees with that, but Rashi says that. The other opinion is that everything was ground level, and the pillars were reached. That was the roof, like that held up the pillars held up the roof. So the question is, did the pillars hold up the floor, or did the pillars hold up the roof?
They held up the roof, but probably the floor could be put something under it, and it's elevated.
Well, but the question is, was it elevated? Not if it could be.
Oh, I don't know.
Now, so there are two opinions, and then you have a third opinion who says both.
But now you know why they use the beams in the wall to support the beams in the ceiling.
Right.
It's easier to connect wood to wood than wood to stone.
Right. Again, this is a different structure than the stone structure that we spoke about in the last chapter.
Oh, okay.
The last chapter was talking about the Beis Hamikdash, and now we're jumping to Shlomo HaMelech structures for his palace.
Oh, his palace! But his palace, they said,
was right near it.
30 amot high. That's like 5 stories.
Yeah, it was quite big. Yes. So now the thing is that the Abarbanel understands that, or he brings from Josephus that the structure had 2 levels, and it had 2 stories basically, and the royal treasures were on the lower, and the living quarters were higher up. Okay, anyway, we're on verse 3, and it was roofed with cedar overhead upon the boards that were atop the pillars. So there were 45 boards, 15 per row. So it basically had 3 rows of 15 boards each, altogether 45 boards. And there were also 3 rows of windows opening opposite opening 3 times. So you had these windows that basically gave a lot of air and I guess pleasant, pleasuresome times for whoever was there, whoever was enjoying it. The verse we're up to is 5. all of the doorways and doorposts had four-sided frames. They were aligned, opposite opening 3 times. He made half for the building. Again, so everything was like, on the one hand, it was like cross ventilation. It was also very symmetrical. And all the doorways and doorposts had four-sided frames. They were aligned. Verse 6. He made a hall for the building of pillars. So the ulam now, so this is the ulam ha'amudim, it's called. He made a hall for the building of pillars, 50 cubits its length. This is like a structure as an antechamber for the other building, the other structure that we were talking about, which was the Forest of Lebanon building. So this is the antechamber for that.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
On verse 5, it says that all the doorways and the doorposts were four-sided with the lintel, one facing opposite the other 3 times. So Me'am Lo'ez says that the word for lintel is shin kuf fei.
Yep.
And it not only means lintel, but it also means a looking out window, like hashkafa. So
right.
it was a window where people could look out and make it like more scenic and more beautiful.
Oh, interesting. Okay. You know, we had the word shkufim atumim before about the Beis Hamikdash windows, that it had to do with the fact that the light was meant to use that term to radiate out. Right. It's the same word. I'm just sharing that with you. Now, the verse continues. So he made this build, so it was 50 cubits its length. So which means that it went along the length of the other structure. The other structure, the house of the Forest of Lebanon, was 100 cubits in length, but the front of it, which was the width, was 50 cubits, and so this was an entrance hall to that structure, the Forest of Lebanon, which was 50 cubits in its width. So again, how big was this what's called the ulam ha'amudim, the hall for the building? In other words, the antechamber was 50 cubits length and 30 cubits width. And the hall was, in here it says it clearly, the hall was situated in front of the doors of the building. It had its own pillars with a thick beam upon them. So this is the so far 2 of these structures. Now, the way I translated the ulam al panehem, that it was 30 cubits its width, and the hall was situated in front of the doors of the building. That's the way we're translating this, ulam al panehem. But there is another translation that there's a new part of the building that was like a second floor on this. So, in other words, on top of the hall, there was a second floor to it. And that's how they're translating ulam al panehem. Okay, the different translations. Again, we're covering all opinions. or a third of actually, there's a third opinion that says there was even an additional structure built in front of this second structure. So that's a third view. Anyway, let's go on to verse 8. So or verse 7, excuse me. He made a hall for the throne where he would judge, which is called Ulam HaMishpat, the hall of judgment. It was covered with cedar wood from one end of the floor to the other. Now, his house where he would live, which was in another courtyard beyond the hall, was of the same construction. So he's got a number of different structures going on over here. He also made a house like this hall for the daughter of Pharaoh, whom Solomon had taken as a wife. So we've got his structure, the hall of judgment, the antechamber structure, which was which he called the Ulam Amudim, and then he had the other structure, which was the Beis Yar Halavonain, the house of the forests of Lebanon, and so we've got quite a number of different things he was building over here for himself, for his palace. Yes.
I'm reading it in Hebrew, and it says "V'safun be'erez me'akarka ad akarka," but the first karka is two patach, and the second karka is patach kamatz under the kuf.
Okay.
What is there a difference? Somebody said anything about it?
I think it has to do with the end of the word. Maybe it's a different diktuk, type of little grammar. Just I don't think it means, I don't think it means any difference. Okay, so
Rabbi,
yeah,
is there any symbolism or things going on regarding the fact that this is the daughter of Pharaoh, that this is Shlomo Melech is marrying and doing all this thing with the daughter of Pharaoh, who subjected the Jews to slavery for so many years? And it's not him, but it's his descendant who was, the successor.
Yeah, I don't know if it's specifically what you're mentioning that about that connection, about the fact that Paroi enslaved us, but I think it has to do with the fact that Shlomo HaMelech, as we've seen throughout these 6 chapters that we've studied so far in this book, in this sefer, we've seen was that Shlomo HaMelech was very interested in making a Kiddush Hashem, in sanctifying Hashem's name by showing the success of the Jewish people, and thereby showing that this is what you get if you serve Hashem properly, and trying to encourage others, to follow our at least they should keep the Sheva mitzvahs of the Noahide laws. So so what he did for the daughter of Parai seems to be like a almost like an example that he wants, and he made peace. It was in addition to the Kiddush Hashem, sanctification of Hashem's name, but it's also about bringing peace to the world. Because if they all get along very well, and there's no wars, what could be better than that? So it was also a means of having good relationships and trying to bring peace. So it's all about these ideas, which is also part of Hashem's name is Shalom, peace. So it all connects with sanctifying Hashem's name and fulfilling what he understood to be his mission of his father had to fight wars, but now it's the next stage where reach a level of peace. So it seems that that's a major part of Shlomo's understanding of his mission. So we're in verse 8, and verse 9, and verse 9 says, all of these were built of valuable stones, the size of hewn stones, filed smooth with a file on the inside and on the outside, and from the foundation to the ceiling, and outdoors until the great courtyard. So they were basically like, it sounds like it was a marble or a heavy stone, or very high quality. These are avonim yakaros. Yakaros could mean valuable, or it could mean heavy. So there are different translations here as well, what it specifically refers to, and it says the standard size for hewn stones. So that's what it refers to when it says kamidos gozis, which is that was the so it had this size of the standard size. In other words, he made all of them standard size, and outdoors until the great courtyard. It said, and outside from the outdoors until that was the end of the verse. Outdoors until the great courtyard. Let me just get the Hebrew words for that. So what that means is that in many buildings, they only smooth out the side that's exposed, and these stones, he had smoothed out all the 6 sides, of the stone, and so this is what he did for his, for these structures. And verse 10, it was founded upon valuable stones, large stones, stones of 10 cubits and stones of 8 cubits. So this is the foundation, which were larger than the stones that he used for the walls and these. Now, what it says here was there were stones of 10 cubits and the stones of 8 cubits, because basically he would form a ledge. If you have some stones that are 10 cubits and 4 stones that are 8 cubits, so the stones that are only 8 cubits are going to allow there to be 2 cubits of a ledge. And it mentions that the Kohanim used to sleep on these ledges because there were no beds in the Beis Hamikdash, so they would sleep here. Again, this is very close to the Beis Hamikdash, and so they would sleep on these ledges. Maybe the older Kohanim would sleep on these ledges. Okay, so but above ground there were valuable stones, the stones of hewn stones and cedar. So again, we had above the ground, you had these two. You had the other stones that we were talking about, and then of course you had the cedar, and now the great courtyard all around the king's buildings, the great courtyard all around, which means around all the king's buildings, its walls, they were made of 3 rows. The walls of this great courtyard were made of 3 rows of hewn stone and a row of cedar boards, as was done for the inner courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash, of the temple of Hashem, and for the hall of the temple. So basically what we're saying here is, although the structures, they might have been built with stones and so on, but the pattern that we spoke about, that he used for the wall around these structures, around the courtyard of these structures, and like the camp, it was like a campus. He made a wall around the campus, and that was similar to the wall he made around the Beis Hamikdash, which around the inner courtyard of the Beis Hamikdash. Okay, so now we're up to verse 13, and what's very surprising about this chapter is that it jumps from Shlomo's own building, his own structures for his palace. It jumps to the Beis Hamikdash now, all of a sudden. Now, so verse 13, it mentions that Shlomo HaMelech sent. Let's read verse 13. King Solomon sent and took Hiram from Tyre. Now, who is this Hiram? It sounds like the same as the king that we mentioned earlier, that Shlomo HaMelech developed a good relationship with, and Hiram helped him with all the wood and sent it, down the Mediterranean, and Shlomo HaMelech helped Hiram with grain and bread, and sounds like it's the same person, but it's not. This is actually a different person. And it's a Jewish person. This is a Hiram that's Jewish, and he is from Tsar. And basically, what happened was Shlomo HaMelech wanted a specialist in art, for skilled artisan to help him with the Beis Hamikdash. And the king of Tsor, which is in English Tyre, his name was Hiram. He said he had a guy, and he has the same name and from the same place. His name was Hiram of Tsor, so and he was Jewish. So the king of Tsor actually sent this Hiram to help out. Shlomo help out building the Beis Hamikdash, and so King Solomon sent and took Hiram from Tsar, and he was the son of a widowed woman from the tribe of Naphtali. And his father had been Ish Tzairi Chayresh Nacheshes. He had been a Tsar person, a Tyre person, who dealt with copper, a coppersmith. And he was full of the wisdom and insight and the knowledge to do all sorts of work with copper. And so he came to King Solomon and performed all his work. So the story here is that this Hiram is Jewish. It even tells us what tribe he's from, or his mother is. Now it sounds like the mother is from the tribe of Naphtali, but in the there is a verse in Chronicles which sort of like adds some details to this story. So it mentions over there that his mother's from the tribe of Dan. So one of the suggestions to reconcile this is that his father was from the tribe of Naphtali and his mother was from the tribe of Dan. Now there is another interpretation here that he was the son of a widowed woman from the tribe of Naphtali. His father had been a Tsar coppersmith, So why did Hiram live there? Because he wanted to comfort his mother, who was now a widow. That's one of the understandings, at least brought in the commentaries. All right. So in any event, what we have here is something very interesting, and that is that who built the Mishkan? Who were the main artists who built the Mishkan?
Bezalel.
Bezalel, and who was the second one?
I don't know.
Bezalel and Ahaliav.
Eliav.
Ahaliav. Now, which
Ah,
tribe was Bezalel from?
I don't know. Levi.
Bezalel was from the tribe of Yehuda,
Yehuda.
and Ahaliav was from the tribe of Dan.
Rabbi,
Yes.
here's a good trivia question.
Yeah.
Where was a Chabadnik in the book of Shmuel, in the book of Malachim? So this Hiram was a Chabadnik. He was filled with Chachma, Bina, and Das.
Yeah, the only thing is, you got to say that about the Chumash. Who was the Chabadnik of the Chumash? You have Bezalel. It says Hashem filled him with Chachma, Bina, Udas. Same, very similar wording as this verse. So you have it in Chumash as well, just in case you want to take advantage of the trivia question. You could ask it about the Chumash, which is what I wanted to mention, was that this verse, this is what's interesting about this story here of Shlomo HaMelech building the Beis Hamikdash, is that we've got someone from Dan and we have someone from Yehuda, who are both, they're both involved in the Beis Hamikdash, and basically very similar to the Mishkan, where we had, the Bezalel and Ahaliav, and here you have Shlomo HaMelech and Hiram. Hiram mentions here that he was from it mentions, I should say, in Divrei Hayamim, really, that he's from the tribe of Dan. Here it mentions that one of his parents was from Naphtali, but there it mentions the other parent was from Dan. So he's from Dan, and Shlomo HaMelech is from Yehuda. So we have the two, and it basically mentions the same idea, that Hashem filled them with wisdom, insight, and knowledge. Chachma bina das. If you look in the Hebrew, you got and that's what David, if anyone didn't catch on what David was saying, it uses the term Chachma, Bina, and Das, which is the acronym for Chabad. Okay. Anyway, in any event, the verse ends off. So he came to King Solomon and performed all his work. Now, it does say that he was capable of all in many areas, but Shlomo HaMelech used him specifically, or mainly for the copper. The Radak says specifically for the copper. Maybe because he had other silversmiths and goldsmiths and blacksmiths or whatever he needed for his other work. I guess carpenters, but there is another thought that could be that he wanted someone very righteous to deal with the silver and the silver vessels, the gold vessels, because of the holiness. So maybe he had specific people, even if they weren't such professionals. But in any event, he used Hiram for the specifically with the copper. It emphasizes that.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
Here's another interesting thing. For instance, from Me'am Loez. He says this Chachma, Bina, and Das. He says these are also 3 of the 6 qualities that Mashiach will have. As it says in Yeshaya, it says the Spirit of Hashem will rest upon him, and the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of advice and might, and the spirit of knowledge and fear of Hashem. So he says, Chachma bin and Das. This is in Isaiah. Where I see it. Okay, anyway. Yeah, so this is
very nice, very nice. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So I was just going to mention that it mentions that his father was also an ish tzairei chayresh nechoshes, and that his father was someone who worked in copper, and the understanding.
Are you talking about King Solomon's father?
No, Hiram's father. Again, we have this special artist who they brought from Tsar, who was
Not a slave.
had a specialty
Not
in
slave.
copper. Not a slave, no.
A slave, okay.
And so it's brought that it brought in the Gemara that a person should continue in the field that his father worked in, like make it easier for him. It's and one of the understandings is that you shouldn't think that that there can't be wealth, in such a field. I have to go and find something new. You should know that every business, there are those that make it very wealthy and those that don't. So it's not the business that makes you it's not the type of business that makes you wealthy. It's the Eibishter. So there is there's a Gemara that mentions about working in the same department that the person's father worked in, and so that's another little point that I wanted to mention about the fact that from the tribe of Dan and the tribe of Yehuda, that the point, why do we make a big deal about the fact that why do we make a big deal about these two tribes, that they built the Mishkan, the tabernacle, and the Chumash, and they also built the Beis Hamikdash here? And the reason why we make a big deal about it is emphasizing that it doesn't matter how holy you come, what type of lineage you have, and the person shouldn't feel arrogant about their lineage, because both Betzalel and Ahaliav, Betzalel, who came from very special lineage, and Ahaliav, who came from what you would say maybe a not such great lineage, from the tribe of Dan, which is called the Yarud Shebeshvatim, like the lowest of the tribes, but it doesn't make a difference. We're all equal in the eyes of Hashem, and we all can serve Hashem to the best of our abilities and reach great heights. They were both involved in building the Mishkan and the Beis Hamikdash. So a person should never think, and a person, first of all, shouldn't be arrogant if they do have the lineage, and should never feel low because they don't have that lineage. Either whether you have the lineage or not, you're all part of Hashem's army, and you're equal in Hashem's eyes.
Rabbi, one more thing is the tribe of Dan, when they were in the desert, they were the tribe that was spread out behind everybody else, and they picked up all the lost objects and returned them to everyone. Right.
It does mention that, but not for some reason it doesn't mention that as part of when it mentions that Dan was considered the lowest of the tribes. It doesn't mention that, well, they did that mitzvah. Like you would think that would pick them up to make them more of from the higher level tribes, because they were involved in returning the objects, right? You would think that should have made them more prestigious.
Rabbi?
Yes.
Wasn't the tribe of Dan a warrior tribe? They were known for their abilities to sneak up behind their enemies and attack them.
Yes.
I think it has to do with which tribe was Shimshon from. I think Shimshon maybe was from Dan.
From Dan.
Yeah, and I think that's referring to Shimshon. That's specifically referring to Shimshon. But yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. That it seems like Dunn did have some greatness to it. Well, the reason why I think there seems to be a negative element to Dunn's lineage, I think has to do with the fact that Dunn was very involved in idol worship, and because of that, they were considered from the lower of the Shvatim. Now, about what you said, David, it does say that Mashiach will descend from both Shevet Yehuda and Shevet Dan. It does mention that in the Yalkut Shemaini in Vayechi. There is such a statement, so it is connected here with the having the Mishkan built with Shevet Yehuda and Dan, and the Beis Hamikdash Yehuda and Dan, and then Mashiach is going to come from Yehuda and Dan. Interesting. Okay.
See, I'm thinking in terms of the fact that even if a person is from the tribe of Dan, they shouldn't look down upon themselves. They should still realize that they have the great quality that Dan had, that they could still do the mitzvah of returning lost objects and trailing behind the other tribes and doing this wonderful thing of helping everybody else. They shouldn't feel that they're stuck in a low tribe.
Right, and not only that, they could even build the Beis Hamikdash.
Right.
And the Mishkan. They could reach the great heights. Yeah.
And return all the lost objects at the same time.
Right.
They could run the lost and found in the Beis Hamikdash.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, so I guess we'll stop here. Sei gesund, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Stay safe. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you,
Thank
Rabbi.
you, Rabbi.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.